Hi, and welcome back. My name is Chris, and today we're going to talk about the DJI Osmo Mobile 3, as well as the new kid on the block, the OM4, also made by DJI. First things first, this video and these products are not sponsored. I purchased them with my own money. And in this video, my intention is to give you an overview of these two devices, what they can do both, as well as what is new with the OM4 compared to the Osmo Mobile 3, and also whether or not it's worth the upgrade to go from the Osmo Mobile 3 to the OM4 now that this one is released. However, I want to start with a little bit of a story of why I even picked up these two things. It isn't that long ago that I actually kind of felt burned out by bringing the big camera all the time. I have a small bag that I can carry the Canon EOS R with me that I have set up here for my YouTube videos, and I also have a relatively small lens with the 35mm f1.8, and I don't really have to bring the big lens, which is the 24-105, all the time. However, it is a hefty setup. It's kind of heavy. And that just brought me to these points where I wanted to just go on a hike or a walk without that extra weight. But I also want to still be able to capture the world around me with some device. Then I thought to myself, well, I have the 11 Pro, which has an incredible camera, and actually three of them with the ultra wide, the wide, as well as the telezoom. And the telezoom as well as the wide lens are actually stabilized, and the ultra wide sadly is not. So this is a great camera to bring around. However, what I noticed more and more was once I started using it for Instagram Reels or TikTok videos and those kind of things, especially those hyper smooth nature shots that I wanted to get with 4K 60 and then slowing it down in post, I noticed all kinds of movement and jitters in me hand holding this device. And with that, I came across this question of like, how can I change this? My first thought was, well, just bring the bigger camera with a neck strap and hand holding it straight in front of my body with my arms kind of clenched to the side. I really can get amazing shots with the Canon EOS R and all those lenses. However, of course, the Canon EOS R kind of tops out at 1080p with 60 frames per second and 720p with 120 frames per second. Now, it would be amazing to have the Canon EOS R5 here to shoot 4K 60 as well as 4K 120 for those occasions, and that may come at a later day. But for now, I'm kind of stuck with the heavyweight camera or this small form factor camera. Now, this whole endeavor also sparked the problem or question in me to talk about and think about perfectionism, which is really something that I struggle with a lot. For one, bringing the smaller camera, which just has a 12 megapixel sensor, despite being able to shoot 4K, which is great, but it's still a tiny, tiny sensor. Comparing that to this huge full frame sensor on the Canon EOS R with its 30 megapixels, it's really no joke. It is worth bringing the bigger camera. But what about those moments when it's not worth it? When it's not really something that is production value kind of situation, when it's something you want to just relax on and take it easy and more lightweight, what do you do then? And that's when I started to think about, well, I have to give myself that downtime. I have to give myself the opportunity to not bring the heavy backpack or something like that. I want those moments where I just walk around the lake or something. But at the same time, I still would love to have the ability to have something lighter. And of course, then there's the question, well, why don't you buy a camera that is lighter than the Canon EOS R and bring that? Well, it's a question and it's a good one. However, at this time, I'd rather not bring anything extra, or at least not a dedicated camera extra that I would have to do that way. Now, my phone, on the other hand, I pretty much bring all the time. It counts my steps. It helps me stay in contact, find my way if I'm on a trail that I don't know, and all those benefits. So what better tool to bring than my phone, as well as something that can improve my production quality? And that's when I stumbled across gimbals again. Now, I kind of researched all kinds of different gimbals for stabilization purposes. And of course, I also looked at the DJI Ronin SC as well as comparative big gimbals for bigger cameras like the Canon EOS R. But then I had to really kind of like grip myself and tell myself, no, you're not here to get the utmost quality possible. You're here to get a simple, small setup that you can carry around on a family hike or something similar. So I ended up looking at the phone gimbals, and of course I also looked at the Xiantech and the Feiyutech and all those other manufacturers, but at the end of the day, I just found that the ability to fold this down like this, having this really tiny setup, is super, super convenient. And it makes it so that it even is possible to just put this into a back pocket, or at least have it slide it into a back pocket so that only half of it kind of sticks out. This makes this setup really, really convenient. And that's why I went ahead and purchased the DJI Osmo Mobile 3. I basically got this thing for myself to capture those moments when traveling or hiking or just spending time at the lake or something, but I also got it to be able to get more social content for Instagram, TikTok, and so on. And of course, you can check out my website for all the links to those different platforms and check out what content I'm producing there. Now, this is a really good tool for that purpose. It holds your phone, it also holds it horizontally as well as vertically, so you can get those portrait mode shots as well as those normal landscape video shots for YouTube. But for TikTok, Instagram, and so on, it's really an amazing tool. I also wanted to make a video about this. However, I didn't even have time to produce my video about the Osmo Mobile 3, and now DJI decided to just release the OM4, which is the basically replacement of the Osmo Mobile 3. So now we have the Osmo Mobile 4, or also OM4. So I got those news a couple days ago, just in the middle of the night, basically while watching a movie, and I decided, well, what better time? I wanted to make a video about this anyways. Why not get both of them and compare them and then see which one is the best fit for who, and whether or not you should upgrade if you already have the Osmo Mobile 3. Now, first of all, these two are very, very similar, and it actually is down to the spec sheet similar. So you see that the old one has this dark gray and the new one has this kind of very light gray. And other than that, the buttons are the same, the cord connections are exactly the same, the layout is the same. And of course, the big new feature on the OM4 is that here you had this clamp right here, and it kind of goes open like that, and you just snap your phone into there. And now on the OM4, you actually have this clamp here, which is made out of metal, and it's magnetic, so it snaps into place like so. One quick thing about that, before I start talking about it in depth, there's also this little magnetic thing here, which is basically the same as the clamp. However, this one gets glued to your phone, and that way you can just use your phone very easily with this snap-on mechanism. And also, you then have this kind of ring thing that you can use on the back of your phone, kind of like a pop socket, just a little different, and with the multi-purpose that you can snap it to the gimbal. However, I'm mostly going to talk about this mechanism right here because that's my personal preferred method, because I like to use my phone sometimes with a case and sometimes without a case, and that's why I don't want to glue the other part onto my phone like that. And this here is just as useful in my opinion. One more thing that I wanted to show you about this comparison between these two devices is that, of course, they still fold open like this on the old one and like this on the new one. So they just work the same way, basically. You have the handle, you have the joystick, you have all the buttons laid out there, and they're practically the same. And I'm going to talk about all those other differences that I found coming up, but this is the basic tool that you'll get. Now, since the magnetic connection and the difference in how you mount the phone to the DJI OM4 compared to the Osmo Mobile 3, let's start talking about the details that I like and dislike about it. Now, first off, you had this mechanism right here. Basically, you have the clamp like that. It kind of opens in both directions on the Osmo Mobile 3. It is kind of big right here, and it just is all made out of plastic. Now, looking at the Osmo Mobile 4, it looks like this without anything attached to the gimbal, and it looks like this when you just attach the clamp right here. And of course, you can see you can still open it at one-sided, and then you can place your phone in the middle of that. Now, first thought that I had immediately when unpacking this and seeing it like this here gives me much more confidence in the whole design. It doesn't look as fragile. The parts are more close together. There's not this other twisting thing here because that actually is kind of sticking out here, and it also gives an opportunity for all kinds of places to get stuck and hang on something. And also this really easily, it has this kind of locking position, but it also kind of goes into rotation mode very, very simple. So you can lock it by opening it up and then having it here into this position, and then you move it again by opening it up again. But this just twists all the time and very, very easily. And having it just like that, you can already see it is much less profile to get stuck on something or hang on something or something like that. So that is one of the big benefits of having this magnetic thing. But then of course the big one is that you can just snap and unsnap your phone. And that is extremely useful because you can just pack this away when you don't want to use it and really, really simply slide this back into your pocket. And this actually gives a huge benefit because I, for example, was hiking with this contraption on my birthday, and with this here, I was shooting and then I got a call, and then I had to kind of like take the call like this. Having this thing dangle around my face, it was annoying. I didn't know what to do, and also carrying it like this with the phone in the contraption and stuff, I just didn't feel it. It wasn't really that pleasant. Of course, if you're using it as a gimbal for that moment, it works fine. But the whole thing for me is that I want to carry it around on a hike, which goes multiple hours, and I don't necessarily want to keep it in there all the time. And I also don't necessarily want to lock it in there or like clamp it in there and then unclamp it and then clamp it again and all that. Of course it works, but it also is more kind of like failure prone, I would say, to having to lock it, clamp it and unclamp it, because every single time I do that, I kind of like fear maybe I drop my phone or something. And again, just like I mentioned, this here isn't as fragile. Clamping it and unclamping it with this is just that much easier, and I don't fear dropping my phone or anything like that. Talking about the safety and stuff like that, this here feels really sturdy. Once you align those two, it just does not fall off. It's really sturdy. And I really like that about it. It's a setup that is strong, it's powerful magnets that just work. Now, like I mentioned in the beginning, there's also this tiny little magnetic thing here, which is also a pop socket ring. So you can put this on the back of your phone and then you can kind of like hold it like this. And I might try it at some point, but at this point, I didn't really want to, because I usually want to use my phone with a case and without one. And I don't know if this would still fit into my case if I were to use this. And then again, of course, my case also holds credit cards and stuff like that, and magnets, and those, I don't know how that actually works. But if you wanted to, there's actually this kind of like alignment paper or a card that you can use to kind of like know where to put your phone, and then you can attach this just like that right there, and you have it in the right spot so that it's in the center, so that it's automatically also balanced for your phone with the gimbal. So with that said, I really like the clamping mechanism. It's super easy to use, makes the whole thing a breeze to use. And I'm really happy that DJI actually decided to just release this change, despite it being just a very minor technical change. There are a couple more things that I'm going to point out in terms of what other things also changed, but I really like that they made this incremental step forward instead of waiting a couple, 2 years more to actually release something that is vastly different from this gimbal. But let's talk about a couple more differences as well as similarities between the two. Number one, I want to mention that they're both charged via USB Type-C, and it actually works with all kinds of USB Type-C cables. If you watch my channel long enough, you know that I absolutely hate it if there are USB Type-C sockets, but you need a USB Type-A to USB Type-C cable to actually charge whatever device you're using. This is the case with a couple of unnamed products that I actually reviewed on this channel and I talked about. And I'm also going to continue to talk about this issue until it is resolved, because USB Type-C only makes sense if you can use proper USB Type-C cables. Then, of course, we also have the port up here for charging whatever phone you are using. I usually don't use that functionality. I have not tested it. It's something that I don't really concern myself with because I usually bring another battery brick if I am actually going on a distance that long. Now from there, both of these sets actually come with a USB Type-A to USB Type-C charging cable, but as I mentioned, you can also use a USB Type-C to USB Type-C charging cable to charge both of these up. Then the batteries in these two actually did not change whatsoever. They're both actually the same amperage, the same watt hours, and also keeping the same time of running these two gimbals. The only difference is that this gimbal, the newer one, the OM4, actually has slightly stronger motors and is rated for heavier smartphones. The maximum phone weight on the OM4 is 290 grams, and they recommend about 60 grams less than that, but that's about as much as it can handle. And then you of course also have the Osmo Mobile 3, which is rated to 230 grams in maximum weight. They both have the exact same button layout as you can see here, and of course they also feature the trigger button on the other side. Now that's something, maybe there would have been some possible changes that would have been nice to have. I certainly have a couple of ideas. However, it's something that you don't necessarily have to change because it worked and it gives you all the features that are really necessary. The weight of the two gimbals actually stayed fairly close to each other. This one set here is 390 grams. That is without any of the magnetic holders. If you add the magnetic holder with the clamp, it's 32 grams more. And if you add the little button that you glue to your phone, it's about 400 grams for the whole setup. Now with this here, it's about 405 or something like that. So it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. And then there's one more major difference between the two, at least that's advertised on the website from DJI, and that is that the OM4 apparently has another sensor which notices when you are doing low level shooting, like low in terms of low on the ground, and it actually adjusts for that and helps you be able to capture more of those moments. They call that the flashlight mode. Personally, I don't think that this actually goes into the area of flashlight mode that I have seen on other types of gimbals, where you literally can hold the gimbal like this and it still works perfectly. With this type of thing here, with the motors, the way that they are set, it just doesn't work that well. But you can definitely go a little lower with this gimbal compared to the Osmo Mobile 3. And one last thing is that the OM4 right now only ships with this little extension tripod right here. And that is really helpful when you just want to set it up on a desk or something for those hyperlapse or the time-lapse shoots with the motors kind of changing the position and those kind of things. It just is very, very handy that they have this in there as well. Now, this actually came with the Osmo Mobile 3 as well, but only in the combo pack. And then you also got a couple other things which you may or may not need. In terms of packaging, what you get in the box is that both of them has a USB-A to USB-C charging cable so that you can charge the OM4 or the Osmo Mobile 3. They of course come with the gimbal itself. Then with the OM4 you have the little magnetic button as well as the magnetic clamp. Then the OM4 has this little tripod thingy, which you only get in the combo pack for the Osmo Mobile 3. They also come with a ton of paperwork as per usual with a quick start guide and those kind of things. They also both come with a little bag that you can put the Osmo into so that you can put it into a backpack and it is not as kind of like vulnerable to being scratched or kind of like flipped open or something like that. And in the combo pack of the Osmo Mobile 3, again, you get a little tripod like this and also a little hard case. Lastly, they also have this kind of like phone dangly thingies that I don't ever use, so that's in there as well. So that's it in terms of mechanical difference between these two gimbals. They are both really, really similar. A couple more stronger motors here, the magnetic clamp, the being able to shoot a little lower with the flashlight mode like so. It is a little step up and a step into the right direction, but it's really an incremental improvement and not really a huge upgrade in terms of the mechanical differences. A couple of things, of course, but not that significant. Now, I also want to take a moment to talk about the software side of things, and that is because with the release of the OM4, DJI actually also released a new version of the DJI Mimo app and actually brought a ton of features, not just to the OM4, which many other companies might have done, but they actually brought a ton of new features also to the Osmo Mobile 3. And that's really, really cool by them. And I want to see more companies do that. Improving these software capabilities didn't really rely on any additional features of the Osmo Mobile device, so they just decided to make it available to at least the Osmo Mobile 3 as well as the OM4. And I don't have any information about the other devices because I don't own those, so I couldn't test it. But the three main changes that I want to talk about are the Active Track 3.0, the Dolly Zoom, and the CloneMe Panorama, which are all really cool. The first one, and probably also the most mind-blowing one that I added, is the Dolly Zoom, or the dynamic zoom as DJI calls it. It's also called the Vertigo-Effect or the Hitchcock-Effect, and it is usually meaning that something is staying in focus and also right at the center of the frame. As you walk toward that object, the background changes in a lot of ways and then kind of like zooms out. And you can see that on the screen. It's really a cool effect. It works when moving toward an object and also works when moving away from an object. The functionality is actually really simple. You open the Mimo app, you put your phone into the gimbal, turn it on, and then switch to Dolly Zoom or Dynamic Zoom effect. And then there you're asked to select an object on the screen, and then Active Track kicks in. And as you move toward that object or away from it, depending on which mode you chose, you actually just have this effect that the camera zooms at the same time as you're moving toward or away from that object or person. And then the effect is basically rendered for you out of the gate, and it just may take a short moment, depending on how long you took to move toward or away from that object. Personally, I found that it's really jittery, and the software does a lot of stabilization on top of the stabilization, and it just didn't really move as smoothly that I would have liked it. Maybe this is different when you actually go outside and you have a lot more space, but for now, with my testing inside, it wasn't really as impressive as I would have liked it, at least not with my hands. Maybe I shook too much or something like that. But I'm open to seeing more people try this and also see what other people can come up with. And I'm definitely going to test this effect more when out and about on a hike or something similar. Then we have Active Track 3.0, which got a little faster from what I experienced with it, but other than that, it really just didn't change all that much. And lastly, there's the CloneMe Panorama, which is actually really cool because it gives you a way to put yourself or yourself and other people in multiple positions in the same shot. And it just does that very simply when you put the gimbal down. It's also probably why they are shipping this with this little tripod here, because this kind of CloneMe Panorama works best when put onto a stable surface. So you put your gimbal onto a stable surface, open the CloneMe app, and then you tell it to start taking photos. And after a certain timer, the camera will take a shot for you, then move to a different position, but give you a little bit time to basically move between shots to that new position. And then it takes the second shot and then the third shot. And you should make sure that you are in different positions all the time. And then the app actually renders a photo for you where it stitches those three shots together. And of course, you will be visible on all three of them. And of course, that's depending on whether or not you move between the shots. But overall, a really cool effect that is a creative way of changing it up a little bit and getting interesting viewpoints and creations going. I definitely wish I would be able to clone myself all the time, doing this video work right here, editing on my computer at the same time, and also doing chores in the household. That would be a real win, and I would definitely do that all the time if that were a reality right now. But for now, we just have to play with it in a creative way. Okay, so this is the overview in terms of the hardware changes in the OM4 to the Osmo 3, and also the software changes that came with the Mimo app update. Now here's my verdict. Would I buy the OM4 as it is right now? Of course I would. If I'm looking for a small travel-friendly stabilizer for my phone, I don't really want to carry too much, but I want to take more stable shots, more video, maybe vlog a little more, create those kind of like family memories, as well as all those time lapses, panoramas, like all those cool shots. This is an absolute no-brainer. Would I choose the OM4 over the Osmo 3? Of course I would. The ability to magnetically switch between phone mode and just putting it on here, putting this thing back into my pocket or back to my backpack, and just being able to still have my phone around with that magnetic little button that you can glue to your phone, maybe that's a great option for you. But even with the clamp, it works wonders, and the ability to just take it off, put this back into the backpack, it's super, super convenient. Now, I'm again very, very happy that DJI also made available all those new features in software to the Osmo Mobile 3. So that's really not that much of a reason to get the OM4, but all those other features are. And I would even argue that there's practically no more reason to buy the Osmo Mobile 3. And I'm pretty sure that they are going to just phase those out because it makes no sense to choose those over this here. The only thing might be the price, because the Osmo Mobile 3, of course, is about $100, and this here is about $150. But somewhere between $30 and $40 or $50 more, I would say get this one. It's definitely worth the money. Now, if we're talking about the situation where you have the Osmo Mobile 3 and you're thinking about the OM4, I would personally say probably not. Maybe if you can sell this one for a good price, but other than that, this here just doesn't change as much in terms of functionality and feature set, then it would be worth the extra dollars, especially if you just have this after back in your closet or something and it's just collecting dust. If you can sell it, or if you can maybe gift it to someone else that wants to use it, that's a great way to continue using it. But overall, I would just stick around with the Osmo Mobile 3 and not bother upgrading to the OM4 because it just doesn't have as many new features than I would need to actually warrant an upgrade into that direction. Now there you have it. A little bit of a review / comparison of the Osmo Mobile 3 versus the OM4, which just recently got released. Now I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about the OM3 as well as the OM4. How do you compare them? Do you think that it's worth the upgrade? Do you have any questions about them? Leave those things in the comment section down below and I will try to answer them there or make a video specifically about all those questions. Now, one more note in closing. This video is not sponsored by DJI. I did not get these products sent. I purchased them with my own money. However, I do use affiliate links to Amazon in the description down below. So if you consider buying one of these gimbals, I would definitely go with this one. Then please feel free to use those links in the description down below to purchase your DJI OM4 to get those smoother shots. It helps out the channel a lot so that I can continue bringing you more content like this and also on other topics. Now, at last, please like the video if it was helpful for you so that other people can find this information more easily as well. It helps out with the algorithm a lot. Also, subscribe to this channel for more videos like this, as well as on other topics. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok if you want to check out those works. The links are in the description below and also on my website. I am at Chris Spiegel on pretty much all of those platforms. Now, the last thing I have to say, have an amazing day, make it your life, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao!